Welcome back in to the Scramble Drill Dynasty podcast. I am your host, Ben Watts. Across from me is just Josh. We finally had our last contract dispute. There were creative differences, different visions with the program. The short and sweet of it is Landon Davis is no longer with us. And he won't be with us again for a while.
No, he's got real life obligations he's got to take care of. So he's got to go work the day job for a little while, and I guess he'll be back at the end of the summer.
Yeah, very busy. Summers are busy for him with his job, so he'll unfortunately won't be with us for the next few months. We have greatly enjoyed having him on here. He's been a welcome addition. We can't wait to get him back on here for the future, but until job permits, he will be out of commission. So it's just the OG, the twos, who started this whole thing. We haven't gotten any better over this time period, but we still do the same. We're still doing it. Josh, I think we're almost at 200 episodes, you told me?
Yeah, next episode. So this one right now, we're recording episode number 199. Next week will be episode 200, which is crazy to me.
How many podcasts make it to 200 episodes? It can't be that many. I feel like that's a lot.
There's no chance that number is high. That is a low number of podcasts that make it to 200 episodes. And I don't know if many episodes with the audience that we have make it to 200 episodes. But we do it for the love of the game.
Yeah, we don't make money off this. We're not sponsored by anybody. This is just a group of guys who talk about fantasy football all the time, and we just decided to do it here. So anyway, all that out of the way to say it's great to be here today. We're going to hop into it. We're going to be finishing up our series of just re-ranking post-draft, post-free agency, all that stuff of the dynasty positions. We're hitting quarterbacks and tight ends because there is not as many to talk about as there used to be. We do have some news to get into it. First, let's see. There's actual news this time, which is crazy. We haven't had actual news in a hot minute. All right. Nick Chubb signs a 1-year deal with the Texans. I don't know about you, Josh, but it's gonna, if you think back to the early days of A, our podcast, and B, like just you and me in our early days of fantasy, we both loved Nick Chubb. So it's going to hurt me personally to see him in a backup role. But I hope he can make some noise with the Texans. I want to see one last run from Nick Chubb.
Are we convinced he's in a backup role? Like, what is our level of conviction?
100%. Okay, I saw this earlier. Let me see if I can pull up his player profile. But I was scrolling through the depth chart. You know how Sleeper has like that little green newspaper whenever a player has something, article or something about them, and I clicked on Joe Mixon, and it said Joe Mixon no longer in a walking boot, expected to be ready for training camp. I didn't know he was in a walking boot at any point. So
okay,
maybe Nick Chubb can find a little bit of volume here and there.
I see. This is going to be a very interesting backfield because Joe Mixon, while he was really productive last year, he fell off towards the end of the year, as aging running backs and workhorse roles tend to do. And it's not like Nick Chubb is some spring chicken or anything. Like, he's also old, coming off an injury, multiple injuries now. I mean,
he's had a lot of big knee injuries.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I guess starting out, you project Joe Mixon to lead the backfield, but I have like a 55-45 conviction that Joe Mixon is really the back you want to have. Because when push comes to shove, who do I think is more talented? I think Nick Chubb is more talented. Who do I think?
He's always been better.
He's always been better. And it's just kind of a matter of how much juice does he have left in the tank, and that you won't really know until the season starts. So it is sort of this ambiguous backfield where I don't know if any of these guys are really worth having, but when you're looking at who might return a better investment on a draft pick, I feel like Nick Chubb would be the guy that would do that because you're getting him for basically nothing.
Yeah, it's hard for me, at least in my head, to make a solid argument for it not being Joe Mixon's backfield because A, they're paying him more money. He had a really good season last year. Chubb is coming off multiple injuries, including like a giant knee injury at like 28 years old. So, yeah, it's really going to be hard for me to say that. But like you said, at the same time, that's Nick Chubb. And maybe we're way off the ball. Maybe he is just a complete shell of his former self, and they end up cutting him before the season or even, during or something like that. I don't know. But it's got to be at least concerning for Joe Mixon managers to be like, Nick Chubb's not the name I wanted to see there.
It's not J.K. Dobbins, that's for sure.
Can we put Woody Marks to bed now? Sorry to the Woody Marks owners.
Sorry, folks.
Sorry.
I don't know. I don't think we were ever a Woody Marks podcast, but I think we can just put that one to bed.
I mentioned him a couple times only as like a stash, I think, of like, hey, they did take this guy day 3 in the draft. Like, if you can taxi him, maybe. Like, I don't know.
He's nothing. Do
I think he's a good player? No, but
you don't know.
But he's gone now.
You don't have a clue.
R.I.P. All right. Anyway, we say that to say, hopefully things can happen with Nick Chubb. I've got Nick Chubb in one dynasty league. You really need him in the listener league if you have any hopes of making the playoffs.
Yeah.
You really hope he makes a splash.
Yeah. No, if he can take over that backfield, I might have a little something there. If not, we're going to be stringing together some things and duct taping a boat together to not sink because it's going to be rough otherwise.
I mean, you got 2 firsts, I think, in 2026. You'll be fine.
I do. It's a year away, maybe even 2 years away. Hopefully, if I play my cards right, we're a year away. I've got, there's Tajay Spears sitting there on that team. I don't think there's a ton there, but there might be something. I don't know. Really, we're hoping.
But you got it built right.
Yeah.
You got it built right. You got receivers and quarterbacks and now Ashton Genty. All right. Speaking of running backs, J.K. Dobbins signs a 1-year deal with the Broncos. R.J. Harvey managers are in shambles right now.
Yes, we are.
They're not paying J.K. Dobbins a ton of money, but J.K. Dobbins was also pretty dang good last year with the Chargers. Am I saying he's the starter there? Absolutely not. I do think that R.J. Harvey will be the guy. But J.K. Dobbins definitely poses much more of a threat than Audric Estime and Jaleel McLaughlin did.
Yeah, believe it or not, this was the excuse I needed to kind of come back down to earth because I was projecting R.J. Harvey as a top 12 running back next year. And this was I probably need to chill out a little bit and factor in J.K. Dobbins a bit into this backfield. And just adding him in a touch brings R.J. Harvey down from like RB11 to, he's probably more like RB17. And I feel like that is a much more realistic median outcome. I was projecting him at his ceiling. J.K. Dobbins coming in brings him back to the median, I think.
If going into draft season, for redraft, obviously, for Dynasty, that doesn't really shift my opinions on R.J. Harvey. I would still have him around RB12 or so in Dynasty, but in redraft, I think if it lowers his price to RB17 or 18, I actually like paying that.
You
price
feel good about that
to get RJ Harvey at that point.
Yeah, because you're not having to draft him.
I don't want to draft
cost.
him. I don't want to draft RJ Harvey in round 4. That's not happening. But in round 6 or 7, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Okay. Aaron Rodgers finally signed with the Steelers. Don't know how much time we need to spend here because we were probably assuming this happened, but
I was thinking
it officially happened.
I was thinking it probably would, but I didn't want to bet on it, and so I was kind of resigning myself to the Mason Rudolph experience. But this is great, at least for DK Metcalf. It's probably not great for the Steelers organization, if we're being honest, because I got to imagine they're going to be 8-9 again or 9-8 again. I don't know.
Enjoy pick 17, guys.
Yeah, this is basically stasis mode for the organization overall. I think at least for fantasy, I feel like this is what's good for the goose is good for the gander sort of a thing. Like he is, I think, an elevation above a true backup quarterback. And what's interesting with him is the numbers.
He's better than Fields or Wilson.
Yeah, the numbers with him last year are pretty solid, but it doesn't really reflect the true story. Like, they were not a good offense, and he was the quarterback for the Jets last year. So even still, though, there's no real target competition. I mean, this is a pretty pared-down passing pie. You've got one good receiver and some random guys. Like, maybe Roman Wilson can be something. But I mean, DK Metcalf probably gets 26 to 30% of the targets. And I guess for that team,
I like that.
It's very, very good. That means you're probably looking at, I don't know, 130 to 155 targets from Aaron Rodgers. That's not the worst possible thing.
Yeah, you've already said this once this offseason, and I see it forming in your eyes, and it's in my eyes too, of projecting DK Metcalf as potentially a top 15 receiver, because like I can see the targets, I see no competition, I'm gonna want to do it. He's an athletic freak, and I can't make an argument to not do it.
That's the problem. That is what's so scary, is you can't really make a good argument other than your previous experiences.
I'm scared.
Yeah, everything is there. He should be like wide receiver 15. But knowing what we know about DK Metcalf, he's going to turn in a season that is 80 catches, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns. And you're going to be like, some weeks were really good, some weeks were not. He probably is a fine flex, but I don't know if you feel great about him as wide receiver 2.
Yeah, I'm not. He's another similar to R.J. Harvey. I'm not going to take him if where we're projecting him is at his ceiling. I can't do it. But if he falls a little bit, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But as it sits, where with the Aaron Rodgers signing, I'm still going to be out at the price you're going to have to pay to get DK Metcalf. From a real life perspective, I was kind of thinking about this earlier. Aaron's been drugged through the mud, and some of it is his fault. Some of it is also, can we please acknowledge how much of a dumpster fire the Jets were as an organization last year? And maybe they still will be, although I really like the signing of Aaron Glenn as their head coach. But they were an absolute dumpster fire. He's still Aaron Rodgers. We've seen him be one of the best quarterbacks in football. And he's going to an organization in the Steelers where this is a stable organization. They may not make the splashiest moves or even the right moves sometimes, but they're very stable. Mike Tomlin, there's not going to be a rotation of head coaches because Aaron wants to get so-and-so fired. No, Mike Tomlin's not going to go anywhere. If Mike Tomlin goes somewhere, it's not going to be because of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Or Aaron wants to bring in this guy. So from that standpoint, I actually do like it. Maybe he can ground Aaron a little bit and there won't be all of this drama and he can kind of quell it, and hopefully that'll be good for him.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I don't know. I'm just fascinated to see how it goes because I do think you saw moments of good football, but it is kind of the decline of these really elite quarterbacks where he's not great all the time. He's great in moments, and he's pretty decent all the time, but he's not elite all the time. And I'm just kind of curious to see what does it look like? Because you're right, the Jets were a dumpster fire. I mean, terrible. And I don't know how much of that was Aaron. I don't know how much of that was just like organizational failure, players not playing to their potential. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see.
Probably a little of both.
Probably all of the above, honestly. But I don't know. It'll just be really interesting to see how it goes. And I think you're going to know pretty quick, maybe week 3, you're going to know, okay, this probably didn't work, or, okay, we might have something.
Yeah. Either way, I'm excited to see it, be it a train wreck or a potential success. I'm just here to watch the fireworks. All right. Speaking of fireworks, Josh, you don't want to talk about this one, but we must talk about it. Anthony Richardson has once again had a shoulder injury. I don't know. I think he re-aggravated the injury he already had.
Great.
Shane Steichen came out and said he's hopeful that Anthony Richardson will be back for training camp. I do not like the way he phrased that. I'm hopeful he'll be back for training camp. That's not a good sign.
That's not great at all. It's I just pulled it up, and apparently it is a setback with soreness in the AC joint that he injured in his rookie year. And it was the same shoulder that he got season-ending surgery on his rookie year. So, I don't know.
It's a recurring theme at this point.
Yeah, apparently he met with the guy who performed the surgery his rookie year, and that surgeon recommended rest, which means we have no clear idea what this means, which means
we know Anthony Richardson likes rest.
He's going to be doing some helmet tapping here for the next couple months while he is not playing. This is just depressing because it means Daniel Jones is going to get a chance to most likely win the locker room over and prove that he's not a bum. Because he's a competent, while not great, a competent NFL quarterback, I think. And I just feel like this is kind of the worst-case scenario for a guy who's trying to prove himself to deal with injury in the offseason program. This is super depressing because you're not going to, I think, get to see what he could have been because it was all right there for him. But it's just like a big old ball of depression for him.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for him. Missing all of this off-season training activity stuff. He's not going to be building chemistry with the guys on the field. I mean, for his sake, I hope he's still involved in team activities and all that stuff, and in meetings and film and all that. But no, Daniel Jones has a real opportunity to separate himself from the pack, and be this team's starting quarterback heading into week 1 and potentially for the season if he plays well. And I was thinking about this. I mean, Shane Steichen, I think people have kind of soured on him a little bit. I still think Shane Steichen has got a fastball and can whisper to a quarterback. And I think I know Daniel Jones they've talked about him before. He's a smart quarterback. He can do little stuff right. I mean, get him under control a little bit.
You think a little Sam Darnold
I think there's a shot. Yeah, I think maybe Shane Steichen can do that and potentially get the most out of Daniel Jones, which again would be a worst case scenario for Anthony Richardson because it's not like Daniel Jones is old and washed either. Like he's 25, 26 years old. So if he comes in and has a lot of success right away, the Colts could turn to him as the future of their franchise for the next 4 or 5 years instead of Richardson.
Yeah, honestly possible. Daniel Jones is 28, but yes, your point is
28. I mean, that's still as a quarterback, that's not.
No,
I don't care about him being 28.
If there's anything there, you've got 5 good years.
And I'm going to be honest with you, from a fantasy football perspective, not for the quarterback themselves, but for the weapons, I would definitely rather have Daniel Jones throwing them the ball than Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I mean,
Pittman,
your
Warren,
Tyler Warren
Jake,
shares,
Jonathan Taylor, all of them. Jonathan Taylor too, like that's good for all of them.
Probably a pretty big difference in terms of fantasy production, I would say. Michael Pittman might actually be something again.
Yeah. And I've got a few shares of Tyler Warren, who we will talk about later on this episode, but I like him already as it is. I like him a lot more if it's Daniel Jones throwing him the ball.
Yeah.
All right, one more piece of football news. This one it's a small one, but it caught me off guard. Rashad Bateman getting a 3-year, $36 million extension by the Ravens.
I did not see that one.
What does he know? He knows something.
Well,
this is hush money.
He knows how to catch touchdowns. I think he had 700 yards and 8 touchdowns last year. I'm pulling up his stats.
I forgot he was on the team until I saw the contract he got.
Yeah. So he had 750 yards and 9 touchdowns last year, which was good enough to get him $10 million a year for 3 years.
Yeah, that's solid tight end production.
Oh, yeah. You'd be... that's
a
Johnny
great tight
Smith
end
production right there. That's basically what that is.
Yeah.
45 catches.
Good on you, Rashad. I'm happy for you. I was surprised, but here we are.
Yeah. Wild times.
The last thing I saw, this was right before we hopped on the episode. This has nothing to do with fantasy football. I just want to hear your take, Josh. After 38 years and at 98 years old, Mel Brooks is going to be making Spaceballs 2.
I thought I did see that.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I thought I saw that there was a trailer. Was that what it was that dropped?
It was sort of a trailer. It was like the Star Wars credits, and it was talking about everything that's happened since the last Spaceballs. Like they've made 30 Star Wars movies, Indiana Jones, and Dune, and all those movies. Like they made all this, but he's like, there's only ever been one Spaceballs movie, and now we're bringing it back, Spaceballs 2.
That's incredible. I just scrolled through Reddit, like the announcement on Reddit, and the top comment says, the dude is literally, speaking of Mel Brooks, the dude is literally a World War II vet. Not many of those left, I'm afraid, and definitely no other vets still working. So good on you, Mel Brooks.
Yeah, Mel is... This is the movie the world needs right now, is another Spaceballs.
Yeah, we're super divided. All we need is Spaceballs.
Yeah. He's going to make fun of everyone. It's going to be hilarious, and it's going to bring us all together. I love it.
I'm very excited about this.
Speaking of bringing us all together, let's talk about our rankings, which divided you and I more than I thought. But I think we kind of came to a mostly peaceful composite with all of our stuff. So
yeah, like
we'll talk about the top guys, obviously.
Like we always say here, this is my rankings with your crap thrown in to make a composite.
Yes.
So
quarterbacks, we kind of got the top 12, and then we'll talk about like the group of guys after the top 12. It's kind of a really big tier. You can shift and shuffle whoever you want. And then tight end, it's been a whirlwind the past 2 or 3 years with tight end. There used to be, 1 or 2 tight ends that were good, and then a couple years ago after, Laporta and all them, there was like, oh, there's like 10 or 12 tight ends who were really good. And then after last year, there's only 2 tight ends who were really good. And now we're back to there's like 8 good tight ends. So we're going to talk about them.
Yeah. Lots of rankings, lots of positional debates, tier debates. I think what's really interesting about this is it's not necessarily the names that we're talking about. It's the tiers in which we ordered them that I think it's interesting. So it's more about when you're making trades, the kind of conversations that you're going to be having about, okay, can I make a lateral move within this tier if I want to get a quarterback? Or can I go target a guy that might be overvalued by the market or undervalued by the market and just sort of move up and down tiers based on these sorts of rankings.
Yeah, and that's a really important point. And it's something we've been talking about in our listener league. Our chat is really good there. There's a lot of good conversation. And that's kind of been the point of some, not debate, more just conversation of figuring out your tiers of where you have guys. And like if you can trade back or down tier, hit a guy in that same tier and then get your plus or whatever you want to add onto it. And finding value wins there, which is really why I love tier-based rankings in the first place is knowing where your drop-off's going to be and how much you need to add or take away from a trade to factor that in.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So let's hop into quarterbacks first. Tier 1 for both tight ends and quarterbacks. There was no argument between either of us. Tier 1 is obviously Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, and Lamar Jackson. Next.
Pretty much. I think you're going to have some people say Jaden Daniels is your number 1. We were not that crowd.
I'm not there yet. And I love Jaden Daniels. Let me be clear. I love Jaden Daniels. He's one of my favorite players. Josh Allen is my favorite player.
Jaden Daniels is great, and his value's insulated. I don't think you're going to have a drop. Like, we're going to mention C.J. Stroud later. C.J. Stroud was the Dynasty quarterback 1 after his rookie season. Or he wasn't quarterback 1, but he was being valued top 3. He's basically being valued where Jaden Daniels is being valued right now. And because he doesn't run, which we told you, we said this multiple times, trade the man. He's not as good as his value says he is. Jaden Daniels, though, runs. So if he has a season where defense is figuring him out, he's still going to give you 750 yards rushing and whatever touchdown production is going to come along with that. So he's the sort of a guy that can have a pretty rough real-life season and still give you 17 and a half, 18 fantasy points a game and still be a top 5 fantasy quarterback. So he's the sort of a guy that, like, I personally don't see his value dropping all that much unless he just, like, truly face plants and sucks and loses his job, which I think is pretty much impossible at this point in his career.
That would be shocking.
That would be, honestly, that would be the scenario that would have to happen for him to lose value. Like, he would have to go out there and be a really bad quarterback because fantasy-wise, his value is so locked in because of the rushing. It's not going to fluctuate. Like, it's just going to be, he's going to score points all the time unless he performs terribly, which we have seen him perform really, really well. So he's the kind of a guy that he's pretty value insulated, and he's young, and it's great. Everything's great.
And something else I mentioned, you mentioned the rushing, which is, the obvious, fantasy gold mine for any quarterback. But I also really like that Jaden Daniels can, not to quite to the extent of Burrow, but we kind of talked about it last week. The Washington defense is still not great. They did not add much. So I love having my quarterback in a situation where I know that, A, he's really good himself, and he's going to have to score points to win games. So that, like, it's going to be hard for me to see, like, a true drop-off. Even if Jaden Daniels has a quote-unquote worse season than he did last year, I still think he's going to put up fantasy points even if real-life play drops because he's going to have to score points to keep up with his defense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's great. I have nothing bad to say about Jaden Daniels for fantasy.
Yeah. Nothing bad to say. Obviously, Allen, Lamar, you know what these two guys are. Allen's number one in our books. He's been a top 2 quarterback for the past 5 years, I think now, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Lamar Jackson, you can make arguments for and against him. He easily has the highest ceiling of any quarterback on this list. There's somewhat of an injury concern, although he was completely healthy last year. It's really poking holes at nothing. Lamar Jackson's great.
Yeah.
All right, tier 2. This is where we had a little bit of a disagreement. In my own personal rankings, I had Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts by themselves in tier 2. Your tier 2 was a little bit bigger. So the composite of our tier 2 ended up with 3 guys. We both agree Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts are in here, and Patrick Mahomes slipped in as well. That's a little bit of Josh's crap thrown into the composite list.
I mean, I don't know that we need to say much about Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts. We know what they are. They've produced. They're a known commodity. I guess with Mahomes, it hasn't been amazing the past 2 years. But if you're looking at like a checklist of things that you want in a fantasy quarterback, is he good? Well, he's probably the best quarterback in football, so yes. Does he have a good play caller? Yes. Does he have weapons? I think this year you can say yes. So it's sort of like what is missing from the equation for him to not be a good fantasy quarterback? And I really can't point to anything. I have no argument to say
his defense. Steve
maybe
Spagnuolo.
But maybe. But in terms of offensive efficiency and fantasy production, I know like his truly elite years, the defense was not great, but I just can't see, outside of they're in rock fights every single week and they only need to win games 12-9, which I guess is theoretically possible. I just, like, he's got weapons, he's got a good play caller, and he's elite. So I would imagine, and also he runs, so there's that part of it too. I'm not going to be the guy that says Patrick Mahomes is not a great fantasy quarterback because we've had a 2-year hiccup where it's been like the most bizarre kind of a run where they're winning every single game. They don't actually need to change how they play offense because it doesn't really matter. You win 2 Super Bowls out of 3. It is truly the most bizarre fantasy run I've ever seen, and I don't think it is. I don't know. I feel like things are going to change a little bit. I think we're going to have a little bit of a fantasy uptick for Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hope so, and I do agree. I think it's the pieces are all there. If you get Rashee Rice back and healthy, and suspension or whatever legal status is out of the way, get that out of the way. We know Xavier Worthy kind of established himself. He's a really good asset, and if he can hit more deep shots, obviously that's going to be great for Patrick Mahomes. You still got Kelsey, not what he used to be, but still a safe floor guy, and you got Hollywood Brown in there with whatever they decide to do with that. I agree. I say this kind of with him and Burrow. They don't really have rushing upside. They more just have a rushing floor. Like Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, they have rushing upside. Like they can truly difference makers. Burrow and Mahomes, you're going to see no, they're not going to run for 10 touchdowns or 700 yards, but they'll get you 300 to 350 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns on the ground.
Yeah, it is sort of a matter of can he throw for 30 touchdowns, which I think is extremely possible, probably even likely, but he hasn't done that the past couple of years.
Yeah, that the only reason I dropped him down, and it's obviously he's the best quarterback in real life, but for fantasy purposes, I think obviously the top 3 and then Burrow and Hurts, their profiles and situations are pretty much bulletproof for fantasy. I know Burrow's had an injury history, but healthy, he's got Jamar Chase, he's got T. Higgins, and he's got a truly horrific defense. So he's going to be absolutely stunning for fantasy once again. He's kind of the mold breaker to the pocket passer quarterback. His touchdown and passing yards are just so high. I kind of just put him as a bulletproof prospect that way. And the same thing for Jalen Hurts, except the opposite. Like the tush push didn't get banned. We know Jalen can run. We know he's got good weapons. We know he's got an elite offensive line. He's going to rush for 12 touchdowns a year, and he's still going to throw for 25 touchdowns and have 600-700 yards rushing. All 5 of those guys are kind of bulletproof to me. Mahomes is the first one where you're like, I like him. I think I see the path where he should be good. I really believe he will be good, but I can't say for certain. So that's the only reason I had him a tier below those guys.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, tier 3, and this is where most of the interesting conversation we'll have. The composite has Justin Herbert at 7. I feel consensus probably will hate that ranking of Justin Herbert. I don't even know if it's fully right myself, but you and I for sure. This is Landon Davis isn't on the show. He's out on Herbert. You and I are not. We're still in. I still believe, baby.
Yeah, I mean, we're still in on him. I pulled up Keep Trade Cut just to have like an example. They have him at 8, so it's not like we're we're not off base or anything. It's sort of a matter of okay, last year they had no weapons. Like none. And it was kind of what we thought it was going to be, where it wasn't fantastic for fantasy football. But it wasn't like he was bad. Like he still played well. He was still
quarterback 12.
He was still quarterback 12. It was actually an improvement fantasy-wise. He only threw 3 picks. He was
quarterback 12, which was 1 behind Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Mahomes was 11.
I guess the thing with him is there were 504 attempts last year in 17 games, which is it's no attempts. So I would hope that number would climb up to 530 or 40 to just give you a decent baseline of passing volume, and then maybe you're getting to 30 touchdowns. And if that's the case, he's going to be great. But it is kind of going to be a question year to year of how many passing touchdowns does he get, because he gives you somewhat of a rushing floor. He gave you 300 yards last year, but his rushing floor is slightly less than Burrow and Mahomes. So it's not there's a little bit there, but you're not really relying on rushing to give you fantasy points. You're relying on the passing production.
Yeah. And they did improve the weapons. I mean, they brought in you can say Omarion Hampton's a negative if you want. He's going to improve the offense as a whole. They bring in Trey Harris in the second round. Year 2 of Ladd McConkey. Obviously, it's just training camp stuff, but what I'm hearing out of training camp and from Harbaugh is that McConkey has leveled up even from what he was last year. So he sounds like he's going to be a monster this year. So, I mean, I think I know what I'm going to get with Herbert. You're not going to get, first and second year Justin Herbert where he's throwing it 45 times a game and hit 500 yards passing, but QB 12, that feels like his floor.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah. All right. Caleb Williams. This is another hot bucket carrot, but hot button. I can't speak tonight. Rookie season went about as bad as it could, but they just brought in Ben Johnson and Colston Loveland and Luther Burden and DJ Moore's under contract, and Rome Odunze was the 9th overall pick, and they improved the offensive line.
Yeah. Everything is right there if you believe that he's going to be really good. And I think he probably will be a pretty good starter. I guess with him, and even, I'm looking at his rushing production, you have 490 yards rushing. I'm not sure.
Rusher.
It's pretty good. I'm not sure how much of that is scrambles because his offensive line was trash.
I think a lot was scrambles. A lot of it was scrambles. I don't have the stat in front of me. I believe he had one of the highest scramble rates in the NFL.
I would believe that because I was expecting to see 300 flat, and when you see almost 500, it's like that doesn't really match how it played to me. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to, put out there that you would expect 500 yards rushing as a nice, stable rushing floor for Caleb Williams every year. I don't think he's that kind of a player. I think he's more of a pocket passer, like with the Russell Wilson sort of mobility. So, but even still, Russell Wilson would give you 500.
Watching him,
yards
he's very athletic. So I think he's a very good runner, but it's not like designed runner either. Like he will just scramble, kind of like Mahomes.
He could fly up. That's the thing. Is he sort of holds at this 8 spot because you have team investment, draft capital, it wasn't a good rookie season, but it also wasn't a disaster either. It was kind of somewhere in between. And
quarterback 16, he only threw 6 picks, which is wild to me.
That's the thing. There's not really turnovers, and 4 of those 6 picks came, I think, in the first 4 weeks. So, overall, you say wasn't a really good rookie season, but it also wasn't a bad rookie season either. I think you take it. And you've got Ben Johnson, so you kind of just wait and see. I think this year says a lot about what he is for fantasy because you've got the weapons. If he's not a good fantasy producer this year with this play caller, with this set of weapons, with an improved, I would think, offensive line, I would be willing to say it might not happen. I think you have a pretty pivotal year upcoming. If it's great, he's a guy. If it's not, maybe he's just not that guy.
But I think this is still a good ranking for him because, like you said, if it doesn't happen this year, there's going to be concerns. But if it doesn't happen this year, if it does happen this year, like you said, he's gonna fly up because he has weapons for days. He still, I would say, is in potentially the best situation for a quarterback in football. Maybe the Bengals with Chase and T is better. But outside of that, who wouldn't want to be the quarterback of the Bears?
Yeah.
With Ben Johnson and, Colston Loveland and Luther Burden are potentially your 4th and 5th options on the offense. That's insane. That's an insane amount of weapons. That's crazy.
We think that's pretty good.
All right. Number 9, Kyler Murray. Another guy people are low on him. I think we checked Keep Trade Cut before the episode. He was at 15. He's 9 for us.
This is a rushing thing. That's really what this is.
And weapons.
Yeah, the weapons are pretty good.
Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride.
Yeah, you have good top-tier weapons, I think. You don't really have a ton outside of those 2 guys. But I guess, that's the thing is, like, you do have what we know Trey McBride is an elite pass-catching tight end, and we think Marvin Harrison is a good receiver at kind of a bare minimum. But
did you see his triceps lately?
He looks pretty yoked. Looks
My
pretty
man's
ready
put
to
some
go.
weight on.
So
Yeah.
I guess the thing with him, Kyler Murray's 27. He's got a contract. He was quarterback 10 last year. I'll put it to you this way. In a season he has played at least 14 games of, he has never finished below quarterback 10 because of rushing.
Yeah, he's one of the ones I would say doesn't have a rushing floor. He has rushing upside. Like, he can win you a league with rushing. We've seen him have 800 yards, 11 touchdowns. Of course, that was his second year. But even still, like, worst case scenario, and he's missed games in a lot of them except last year. Worst case scenario, he's going to have like 450 yards. That's worst case scenario.
Pretty much. And I guess with him, you've never seen 4,000 yards. You've never seen 30 passing touchdowns. And that might be where you have some of the questions about, like, elite upside is he's just not an elite passer, but he is a pretty darn good rusher. So it's that combination where I think people are probably kind of out on him because I think we've expected him to take a leap and be a Lamar Jackson or Jaden Daniels or Josh Allen, and he hasn't done that. And I think it's just sort of the way, like the post-hype sleepers, if you will, somebody that we've expected, elite production, haven't gotten it, but it's still very much a possibility going forward. He's not super-duper old. Weapons are pretty decent, all things considered. He's probably a guy that should be ranked higher than this.
He's younger than Daniel Jones.
That's crazy. Crazy.
It feels like it feels like he should be way older than Daniel Jones.
Yeah, because I mean the dog years of playing quarterback, I feel like he is way older. He's had a contract. He's almost all the way through his second contract.
Younger than Joe Burrow.
That's crazy.
He's been in the league like 2 years longer than Joe Burrow.
But here we are. Yeah, he's probably a guy that you should be buying right now, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I was literally going to say he's a very good buy right now. Like, if you can get him at QB 15 prices, as what Keep Trade Cut says, that's an absolute win for you. An absolute win. All right, this next guy, quarterback 10, was a source of a little bit of conversation between the two of us. You had him much higher than I did. And it's not that I dislike this guy, but I personally want to see it more. So make the case for Drake May, Josh.
So here's the thing with Drake May. You go look at his game logs, and it is a very interesting experience last year. I think if you look at his total numbers, you're going to be led astray a little bit because it says he played 13 games, but of those 13 games, you have a 30% snap share twice and a 5% snap share once. And then you've got 4 games where he didn't play at all. So it says he played 13 games. He realistically only played like 12 games. In those 12 games, you saw, I think, the interceptions were kind of an issue earlier on, and he didn't necessarily figure it out, but it's like rookie year. I mean, you sort of take what you can get. You saw a guy who ran the ball. I did the 13-game sample. He gave you 421 yards rushing in 13 games, which prorates out if you do, I think I prorated out for 17. He gives you 580, which is you're in the neighborhood of rushing upside guys, not floor. 500-plus yards rushing for a quarterback is elite stuff. And then I also think you have a pretty decent chance that you have like early career Josh Allen. And I don't say that to say this is a guy that's going to turn into the quarterback one every single year he's healthy. I say that to say I think your floor realistically is like quarterback 8 or 9 moving forward with decent weapons. So you look at him and you go, it wasn't a great rookie year. He wasn't amazing. The weapons were horrific. But I think that's going to be the worst Drake May is ever going to be, and I don't think it's predictive for what his career is going to be. I think in terms of fantasy football, you've got rushing upside. The weapons are not elite right now by any stretch of the imagination, but you do have improvement. The offensive line's improved, and I think he's going to be improved. And I think on top of all of that, you brought in a coach in Mike Vrabel who's going to just rise the tide that raises all boats. So I think you're looking at a Drake May where he finishes quarterback 23 last year, and I think his floor moving forward is probably quarterback 8, 9, or 10. And that draft capital, that age, and just kind of the upward trajectory of elite quarterbacks, I think you do have, at worst, a average passing quarterback who also gives you rushing upside.
Yeah. I can't make an argument against the rushing upside, which I really like. I like that a lot. I guess where my concern is I want to see it. I want to see what it looks like with the new coaching staff. I want to see it. I think a lot. And I didn't watch a lot of Patriots football games, but I wonder if some of the rushing came from necessity versus, using it as a true weapon. And I don't, not that it's not a true weapon. Like Drake May was advertised as a athletic quarterback, a guy who can make things happen, when it breaks down. But I want to see it with the new coaching staff. I know Vrabel's the defensive coach, but, the rising tide will raise all ships. The weapons did not improve, hardly. I mean, they bring in Travion Henderson, who we both like. Good pass catching back, good pass blocking back. But they didn't really make any splashes at receiver. They improved the offensive line, which I like that. But Stephon Diggs, 31 years old, coming off of an ACL. I don't love that as your wide receiver one. I like it for Diggs fantasy, quote unquote, but I don't love that as a team or a quarterback booster. We'll see. I guess maybe it's just you're more willing to jump in early on Drake May versus I'm just a touch more hesitant. I want to see it first.
Yeah, I think because you don't have people, but even still, like I say this and keep trade cut, he's quarterback 7. So like people are in on him. But,
oh, wow.
Yeah, but people are not, I think, in on him for what he will be valued. Like I think the value change from today to what he's valued at this time next year is going to be pretty large. Like I personally believe, and this might be a more of a ceiling thing, but I think he is firmly in tier 2 this time next year. Like, no doubt about it.
Yep.
He's right there with Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow as, quarterback 4, 5, 6 in Dynasty.
Yeah, and that's very possible. I mean, some people, apparently the community, would go as far as to agree with you and say likely. I'm a touch more cautious. But if you want to go in on Drake May, I'm also not going to argue with you because this could be the cheapest you'll ever get him. All right, number 11. This was a opposite case. I was much higher on this player than you were, and it's good old Brock Purdy. Good old can afford to live by himself, Brock Purdy. So proud of him.
Yeah,
so proud of Brock Purdy.
What all do we need to say about Brock Purdy? Like, he finally got enough to finance his wedding. Like, he can pay rent in San Francisco now, and we can put to bed some of these questions, maybe, about him as a fantasy quarterback.
I mean, he's got the contract. He's got the coach. He's got the weapons. I got nothing negative to say about Brock Purdy, to be honest. I mean, I had him over Drake May, if that tells you anything. And maybe I'm dead wrong about that. But, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Hoo-wee.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like you got a lot to say.
No, I don't. I
say on Purdy,
I have
Josh.
Very little. I've got him in Ordinary Gentleman as my QB2, and I have like nothing to add. Like, yeah, he got paid. Great.
Yeah, no, I'm a little against consensus. I'm very high on Brock Purdy. I think he's an extremely good quarterback for real life and fantasy. We'll move through the next guys quick. The next and kind of hit like a clump of guys after that. We have one last guy in this tier, potentially two. I saw you add this guy in there last second with a question mark. But C.J. Stroud, we've been saying to sell him at his current price. He's like quarterback 8 on Keep Trade Cut, I believe you said beforehand. I still am not there. I can't get there. A guy who doesn't have much rushing. I guess he has a rushing floor, but not much. His offensive line's terrible, but he's got weapons. He's in that spot for me. I would love to down tier from C.J. Stroud to one of these last guys. We'll kind of throw in here. Let's just put the names out there. Bo Nix, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy. I love tearing down from C.J. Stroud to one of those guys.
Yeah, I think that's the takeaway. Like, Stroud is so mispriced in Dynasty Fantasy Football because
I think he's good. Let's yes. Don't hear what we're not saying. He is good.
We end up harping on him because of price, not because he's not a good quarterback. I think he's a very solid NFL quarterback, but we need to be honest about him. He's a pocket passer, which means that he is going to be dependent on passing touchdowns to be an elite fantasy producer. And he has not shown that he throws a lot of passing touchdowns. His rookie year, the year where everybody freaked out, he threw 23. And then this past year, he threw 20 touchdowns. If you're going to be an elite guy and be a passing guy where you have less than 300 yards rushing every year, you need to be at 30. Per game. Yeah, that's terrible. That's frankly terrible for a guy with the expectation. For it not being his rookie year, for it not being a situation where all of his weapons are dog crap, that's terrible. Like, you can't even play that. So,
and I get Tank Dell and Nico Collins suffered injuries, and Diggs got injured too. But even his rookie year, where everybody freaked out, he had one. I think he had like one 45-point week.
Yeah.
And then maybe one other 30-point week, and that was it.
That will swing things. And I think if you take those 2 weeks out and then you look at what his points per game are without his 2 crazy spike weeks, you might have to reevaluate and be like, oh, this might actually just be Jared Goff, which is good.
I like Jared Goff.
Jared Goff's fine, but you need Jared Goff to throw 35 touchdowns to be a great fantasy option. And I just don't project that outside of the truly elite guys.
And you know what else? It goes back to the original argument. You're not paying quarterback 8, 9, 10 prices for Jared Goff. You're paying quarterback 17 prices for Jared Goff, if that sometimes.
Exactly. And so you mentioned a couple guys to down tier from. Bo Nix is a guy that we've already seen him throw more touchdowns than C.J. Stroud ever has. He threw 29 touchdowns his rookie year. I bet most people don't know that because it's like, wait a minute, 29? 29 touchdowns. And also, he actually runs. He ran for 430 yards last year. So he's a kind of guy.
I did not know. I figured he had the touchdown passing. I didn't know he had that much rushing. Many rushing yards.
He gives you enough where it's sort of in that gray area of like, is he going to be a guy that's more of a 300 to 350 yard guy that gives you a decent floor, or is he actually a kind of guy that's sort of sleeping and going under the radar as maybe there's rushing upside? Because I think he's much more of a runner than we thought he was coming into the league. And it's not like it was a 1 or 2 game sort of thing. Like, he's giving you 25, 40 yards rushing pretty much every week. I think at the bare minimum, you have a safe floor that you absolutely do not have with C.J. Stroud.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm looking at this, and this was a theme for us in us making this composite list from our own rankings. Push C.J. Stroud down the board. I had Stroud over Bo Nix. I didn't know Bo Nix had that many rushing yards his rookie year. Put Bo Nix over him.
Yeah.
Give me Bo Nix over C.J. Stroud.
Bo Nix has already had a better fantasy season.
You could talk me into Dak Prescott over C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, I mean, you could, because we have seen Dak Prescott throw for 40 touchdowns, I think.
We're heading into
35.
odd year Dak Prescott, which means he's going to be the quarterback 4.
Yes. Dak Prescott is going to throw for 5,500 yards and 40 touchdowns. That's just how these things go.
All right. Is there anything, else you want to put here? We kind of just threw a whole bunch of names in here. Like I said, Jordan Love, another one, Baker Mayfield. We've been talking about him a lot on the podcast. We love Baker Mayfield.
Probably would rather have him than CJ Stroud.
Yeah, honestly, potentially. And then there's guys that haven't proven it yet, but I would almost be willing to down tier from Stroud to them with like Penix and J.J. McCarthy. Yeah. And I didn't have him in mind just because it's a huge tier for me. But even Cam Ward, Cam Ward just went first overall. Like I don't know what he's going to look like, which is why we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on him. But do you think he's upside wise? Do you think he can't either hit or pass C.J. Stroud in points per game?
I'll ask you this. Can Cam Ward in his rookie season give you 3,700 yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 picks, and 230 yards rushing? Can he give you that?
I would go as far as say that might be his floor.
Well, that's what C.J. Stroud gave you this past season.
Yeah. Again, this is not we hate C.J. Stroud, not in real life. I don't even hate him for fantasy. I just, at the price you have to pay for him, he's such an easy down tier option. It's such an easy down tier option.
Anyways.
All right. We've spent a lot of time on quarterbacks. Josh is even texting me, hey, we're going to have to fly through tight ends. So let's go ahead and jump into tight ends. Our composite, we agreed. Tier 1, there's no question. And this may come as a bit of a controversy. We got two guys in here. Brock Bowers is 1. I get it. You're not going to get any argument from either one of us. Brock Bowers is 1, but Trey McBride needs to absolutely be there with him. In a 3-year window, which is what we play Dynasty in, I wouldn't be shocked if Trey McBride outscores Brock Bowers. Trey McBride is elite. That's the whole point of this tier. Trey McBride's elite.
Yeah, I think we've gone so far as to say if you have one of these two guys, you are set. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about it. You've got a guy. He's a guy who's going to be top 3 most likely at his position every single year. You have Travis Kelce in his prime. That's what you've got.
With both of these guys.
With both of these guys, I think. There might be situations where in the future there's more or less or whatever target competition. Maybe Trey McBride suffers a touch if Marvin Harrison Jr. goes supernova. That's theoretically possible. It's also possible
but maybe he scores more touchdowns.
Well, there's that too. It's also possible in future years that the Raiders figure things out and Brock Bowers is not such a, dominator as he was his rookie year. I don't know. But, you know what you got. There doesn't need to be a ton said about these guys.
Yeah, I trust me, I would like to say more about both of these guys, but we don't need to. It would truly be a waste of everyone's time. There's nothing needs to be said. Now, tier 2, things get a little more interesting. We both had George Kittle and Sam Laporta at the top of this tier. My tier 2 was a little bit bigger, though, than your tier 2. We'll spend a little bit of time, I guess. Kittle's 31 years old. I get it. He just signed a 4-year, $70 million extension. He got, the same contract that Trey McBride does. He's just 6 years older than Trey McBride.
He basically, though, just had he had his second best fantasy season ever at 30 years old.
He and Derrick Henry are aging like a fine wine. It is unreal.
And they got rid of
They're
Deebo
getting
Samuel.
better.
There's one less
and
mouth
Brandon
to feed.
Ayuk is going to miss the first 6 weeks.
There you go. So George Kittle, honestly, might win you leagues this year because I don't know. I'm assuming he's being drafted at tight end 3. It's very possible. It's very possible in redraft he could finish at tight end 1. It's possible. The only reason he comes in at 3, I think he theoretically could produce at Bowers and McBride levels, but he's 31. So you just have him lower.
Yeah, and for Dynasty, and again, you play in 3-year windows, which is honestly why he's up here because he just got a 4-year extension. But with McBride, you've probably realistically got a 7-year window, and Bowers, you've got a 10-year window. So that's, again, you can't play in windows like that. But come on, look at their age and production. That's why you've got to have them up there. But Kittle you're right. It's going to put up insane numbers. I am a higher Sam Laporta proponent than I know Landon is on the show. I don't know where you land on Sam Laporta, but I tend to really say give him more of a benefit of the doubt. I mean, the guy was tight end 1 his rookie year, and I don't think people know he was as injured as he was to begin last season, where you can like pay attention to his snap share and production. It was definitely significantly lower. Let me pull up his game logs.
I mean, he had a couple, like he had a 63% snap game, but he also had games where he played 62 and 79% of snaps and scored. He had a 60% snap game where he scored. So he kind of had some touchdowns that covered up.
Yeah, and he was definitely up and down. It was definitely frustrating seeing it, like as a Sam Laporta owner. But after the bye, week 12 on, you see his snap share go to 93% and stay there or higher, and you really see his numbers start to come up. And we know he was suffering with injury, so I'm going to contribute a lot of that to that and say Sam Laporta is probably looking at a bounce back this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the thing with Sam Laporta is if you've got him, you probably aren't trying to tier up to one of the top guys. Like, you have a good enough tight end and a young enough tight end that you kind of just sit and hold. I don't think there's really any moves you're making from Laporta because it's a weird spot where the cost to acquire one of the top 2 guys is too expensive. It's not worth it. So you just hold him. And I think he produces well enough that it's like you're not trying to go get an older guy who produces more. Like you have a good tight end, but you don't have a matchup advantage. Like when you go up against the guy who's got Bowers, when you go up against the guy who's got McBride or maybe even Kittle, it's probably an L. But, I mean, he's better than everybody else. So, great. I mean, you have a very good young tight end, but it's just not as sexy as one of those top 2 guys.
Yeah, I mean, and please let's not forget he was the tight end 1 his rookie season.
He was. I mean, 10 touchdowns.
We say that never happens until Brock Bowers has done it too. So the tight end position is getting better, but I say that I think Sam Laporta is great, and I think fully healthy going into next year, he's going to be just fine. I'm locking him in, no question, at tight end 4 for me. After that, T.J. Hawkinson definitely needs to be up here.
Yep.
He's proven it. He's earned it. I don't care what the quarterback is at this point. It doesn't matter for T.J. Hawkinson. He's done it with Detroit. He's done it with Kirk Cousins, and I think he'll do it again with J.J. McCarthy.
I think he probably will. I think it's a safe bet he probably will.
He's got the contract. He's got the production history. I'm not worried.
Yeah. He's probably also in that Laporta spot where if you have him, you feel pretty good. He's 27. He's not super duper old. He's produced. You kind of just hold. You're like, I can't go get one of those top guys with Hawkinson. There's really no point. So just he produces good enough.
Truly, and we sort of touched on it when we did receiver, when Landon kind of stopped and asked the question about where we would put Bowers in the wide receiver tier list. And I was kind of thinking as we're talking about this, you're talking about tiering up from Laporta or Hawkinson, how you can't. If you want McBride or Bowers, it's going to cost you a receiver. Like, you're going to have to pay, and you're going to have been lucky enough to land one of them in a rookie draft or something like that, to where, hey, I've got Jamar Chase, but I've also got Brian Thomas Jr., as my wide receiver 2, or, potentially even wide receiver 3 if you're lucky enough. I can trade him and try to go get a Bowers or McBride. But that's what it's going to kind of cost to do that, because the McBride or Bowers owner isn't really excited about tearing down from Bowers to Laporta and picking up like DK Metcalf as the other piece in that trade or something.
Lord,
so
no.
It's going to be like you're saying, it's really hard to get one of them by tearing down to Laporta or Hawkinson. It's going to cost you a receiver, like an elite receiver, if you want Bowers or McBride.
Yeah, you're honest. Like, if you tried to do this, if somebody sent me a Hawkinson for Bowers trade, it's probably 2 firsts bare minimum on top of Hawkinson. And at that point, it's so prohibitive. It's like, why even bother?
Yeah, like you're going, I'm going to give you Hawkinson and even like high end, like Ted McMillan, Hawkinson and Ted McMillan for one of those
No
guys.
chance.
It's fair. That's a fair trade. I would say that is a fair trade. Even like, don't plug it into a trade calculator. I would say it's fair. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
If
It
I'm
probably is fair,
like,
but if somebody offered me that, it would be the easiest reject of my life.
Yeah, it's gonna cost you one of the top end receivers.
Yeah.
Or a running back. Anyway, there's two guys that I want to talk about, really three, and then we'll head out of here. Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland. We both agree we've got Tyler Warren ahead of him. I'm really excited for Tyler Warren if Daniel Jones is throwing the ball. I think Tyler Warren could be this year's Sam Laporta, or not quite at the extent of Brock Bowers, but Brock Bowers, where he's the rookie sensation. I think he's pro-ready. I think the situation is great. The Colts, there's a lot of targets open in Indianapolis, and the Colts have been wanting a tight end for years. They've made that very obvious. So
they need a tight end so badly.
I love Tyler Warren. Yeah, they were trying to get Brock Bowers last year. They've been trying to get a tight end through trade, and they finally got one, and they got a dang good one in my opinion. So I'm very excited for Tyler Warren. And Colston Loveland was one you and I are pretty much consensus. We both are very high on Tyler Warren. Loveland split us a little bit, and you kind of make the case against him, and I'll kind of go positive really quick.
I think with him, it's a matter of like, when is he going to score points? Because I'm not sure it happens year one, and for him to not, or for him to be kind of like a Warren, because I think Warren out of the box is a really good tight end to have starting out. Like Hawkinson, Laporta, Kittle, Warren, all of them score points and are pretty darn good tight end options for you week one. Colston Loveland, I think, is a liability for you week one. I honestly, I see 300 to 400 yards his rookie year. And then it's a matter of, when does he break out? And I say that because you have a lot invested in other players. You've got DJ Moore. You've got Roma Dunze. They're not going anywhere. You've got Luther Burden. You've got, and I know he is not a big part of this offense. He does have a contract currently that they probably can get out of in a year or two. But he is there, and we do know he's a good NFL player. You've got Cole Kmet. I
would also go as far to say, even this year, DeAndre Swift is a great pass catcher out of the backfield.
There you go. I don't know that he's there beyond this year, but yeah, I mean, year one, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, year one, for sure.
You need, all these other guys are the number one or number two option in their offense. Colston Loveland is not, like, I just can't see a scenario where he's a number two option in his offense. Like, they have to trade someone for that to happen, because I can't put him above a Dunze or DJ Moore. I just can't.
Best case scenario, he's 3. That's best case scenario.
Exactly. And that happens truly. Honestly, I think you get there if Luther Burden is not as good as we thought he was. Like, I think that's the path. And maybe that's very possible. Maybe Luther Burden is not as good as we thought he was. But I think you have to have some paring down of the passing pie for that to happen. And so for me, it's not, is Colston Loveland a good player? Because I do think he's a good player, and his draft capital says he's a good player. It's just a matter of, when does it happen? Does it happen year one, or does it happen year 3? And I think in that situation, it's not like I'm going to go take Jonnu Smith over him or anything, or something stupid. But it's kind of like, okay, you've got him. How can we use him? I think you can use him as a trade piece right now. I don't know what I don't know. Like, I don't know what his trade value looks like in a year or two if he hasn't produced because the situation doesn't allow him to. He's not a guy that I'm necessarily willing to miss on because the draft capital is too rich, but he is a guy that it's like, this just might kind of suck because I don't know when he starts to score points and be an impactful fantasy producer. And I think that's sort of where I'm at with him.
Yeah, Loveland for me, he's a little high on keep trade cut. They've got him at 5 right now.
Yeesh.
He is a guy that I'm very interested in. I mean, obviously the draft capital is great. He's Ben Johnson's first pick in a new regime. I love everything about that. It goes 10th overall. That's higher than Brock Bowers went. I'm not saying he's better than Brock Bowers, but that is better draft capital than Brock Bowers got. He just turned 21 years old, so he's extremely young. But I agree with you. The situation is tough, but I think you've got to put him. He's a little bit like DK Metcalf I have no choice but to put him here. Like I don't care with the draft capital and the coach he's got and everything like that. I've got to put him here. But I also love him, as you mentioned, a trade piece. And yes, at his current price where he is, I would love to use him in a trade and then also buy him back later. Because by week 4 or 5, when he's only got like the most targets in a game is 3 and like 2 catches for 40 yards in a game or something like that, and that's the most he's gotten, there's going to be a buy low window. We said this, there was a guy last year. Who did we say this about? Sort of like Jonathan Brooks. We said that about Jonathan Brooks, but obviously he doesn't have a devastating knee injury going into it. Like,
right.
There's going to be a buy window where the Loveland owner is frustrated that he hasn't done anything by week 6, and you are going to be able to get him for far less than he's going for right now. And then his price will once again skyrocket once the offseason happens and Cole Kmet or DJ Moore leave that offense. And then you're going to be able, his value is probably going to cut in half, and then it's going to triple in value. That's the kind of where I see the market's going to fluctuate on Colson Loveland. So that's I like him at tight end 7 in Dynasty, and I think he's going to be a gamer's asset this year, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last guy, and then we'll get out of here. And tier 3, I think Mark Andrews should be the top of tier 3. And then I don't care about anyone else. I just want. We talked about this earlier this offseason. After the guys you have to have at the top end of tight ends, I just want guys that score points. That's it. I don't care about, Kyle Pitts is 24, Dalton Kincaid and Tucker Kraft are 24 or 23 years old. I don't care. I don't think they're anything special. I just want guys that score points.
Yeah, I mean, the Mark Andrews experience last year was an awful one, but when he scored, he was good.
4.
I know. That's the crazy thing about touchdowns is if you score them, you end up being a great tight end to have. And week to week, he never really won you a week, but it was just he scored a touchdown pretty much every week from week 5 on. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, you don't feel amazing. Honestly, I feel like past Tyler Warren, I don't feel like you feel all that great about your tight end. I think you're trying to figure something out there. But if you're trying to find a guy who could score a bunch of points and jump in there and be your tight end 3 or 4, Mark Andrews feels like the most obvious one. Maybe Njoku or Pitts or Kelsey could get you there, but if we're being realistic, I feel like Andrews is probably your safest bet.
Yeah, that's what I've got. I wanted to mention him at the top here. Is like I think he should be here. I think he should be the safe option. But I just want guys that score points after this. Like truthfully, nobody here, you can't build your team around Dalton Kincaid. I'm sorry. You can't build your team around Tucker Kraft. You can't build your team around Travis Kelce. The guys above him, even like a George Kittle to a lesser extent, obviously he's a contending piece, but like I can sort of build around Laporta, Hawkinson, Warren, and Loveland even to that extent, especially if you're a rebuilder. You should be going to get Colston Loveland. I can't build around any of these other guys, so just give me the guys that are going to score points.
Yeah, I mean, if you have any of the tier 3 guys as your starting tight end, you're trying to figure out a trade for a top guy, or you're trying to grab Warren or Loveland. That's option A or B. Option C is we'll just see what we have next year in the rookie drafts.
Well,
we'll kick the can down.
Mike Gesicki. Nobody cares about Mike Gesicki, but guess what? He just got a new contract from the Bengals, and he was good last year, so he's going to score points.
Yeah, and I mean every year there's a guy who scores points that is not a good fantasy asset in Dynasty, but he scores points. Like Jonnu Smith last year was a good fantasy asset, but nobody gives 2 craps about him in Dynasty. Cade Otton had a moment in the sun. Like these guys, they flash, and you can get them and score points off waivers, but realistically, I mean if you don't have a top guy, you don't have a guy, and you're just trying to figure something out.
Yeah. And there's guys that you like later. Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson. They're drafted in the second round. I don't know what those guys are. I just give me somebody who's going to score.
Yeah.
All right. That was a little bit longer episode, but we did hit 2 position groups in one. Josh, anything to add there?
Got nothing else other than somebody needs to send me some, I don't know, something to chill out on DK Metcalf because I don't want to be in, but I guess I am.
Yeah, I don't have a choice. I have to be. Have to be.
I'm going to be so bummed out when he has like 3 points the first 4 weeks of the year.
He's going to have more than that. Come on now. He's going to have more than that. Like, it's been a tough especially last year with JSN in town. Like, JSN straight up took over. It's going to be tough for him, so he's going to be the one there.
I mean, we know this.
If anything, I like Caleb Johnson. I'll say that. Can we agree there? We like Caleb Johnson in Pittsburgh?
That's going to be a fun experience.
We like Caleb Johnson.
That'll be a fun time.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all we got for today. We'll have to figure out something for next week, being our 200th episode. I don't know. Maybe we'll be naked for that episode. That could be fun.
That'd be good for the
people.
audience
is not expecting it. Yeah.
It's an audio only show, but we're naked.
Immediately get taken down. Oh yeah, it'll be audio, but you and I will know that we're naked.
There we go. That's all we need.
On that terrible disappointment, that'll be it. We'll see you guys next week in episode 200. Leave us a like, comment, review. Let us know your thoughts. If you disagree and think we're idiots, let us know. Have a good one, guys.